My name's Darren Darling. I'm the Global Brand Ambassador for JLM Lubricants, and I'm here today to give you a walkthrough for using the JLM DPF Cleaning Toolkit, and also along with it the two-step clean and flush fluids. So we have a 2012 Honda CRV here, so we're going to measure our DPF pressure. Engine's running at the moment, so we're just going to take a measurement at idle so we've got good before and after. So you can use this with your scan tool, but you know, we've took a measurement here with a pressure meter and we have 58 millibar at idle. So now we've done that and we're happy, we'll pop that over there. I'm going to leave the engine running for the moment just to get it up to full operating temperature. And what we'll do now is we use the small bottle first, which is the DPF cleaning fluid. So this is the one that's going to work its magic and bring that DPF pressure down. So we pour all of this into the canister. And we'll screw the canister onto the toolkit. So give that a good nip up. And what I'll do here is, if we come in, we'll see on this particular vehicle here is the DPF pressure sensor. So all we've done, connected our cone nozzle to the pressure sensor pipe. It's a single pipe on this one. Obviously, if you had two pipes, you're going into the one that goes in before the DPF. If you're not sure which one that is, use a pressure gauge or a pressure meter to measure the one that has the highest pressure, and that's the one that you should be going into. So now we've got this ready, what I'm going to do is switch the engine off and we'll start introducing the step 1 fluid. So nice and simple. Obviously, things to bear in mind if you have a block DPF, that it is a self-cleaning system, so make sure that you get your diagnostic process right and work out why the vehicle is having problems. So also another tip, before you put the fluid in, some newer Euro 6 vehicles have 2 EGR valves on them, so if you're not sure, then a good tip would be your mass airflow meter here. If you get the vehicle up to full operating temperature, then simply unplug this and that will keep your EGR valves in the closed position. So you can do that on any vehicle as a precaution if you're not sure. So obviously this should be carried out by an experienced mechanic, so they should know whether it's you know, a dual EGR system or not. But if you're not sure, unplug mass airflow. So now we're connected, nice and straightforward. We're just going to pulse the trigger until all of this fluid is in, and then we're going to allow this chemical to soak for 3 to 5 minutes. Don't worry too much, the 3 to 5 minutes is enough to work and you know, to break down the soot content in that DPF, but if you leave it in slightly longer, it's not critical. So if the phone rings and the soak is in for 5 or 6 minutes or even up to 10 minutes, it's not going to cause you a problem. It shouldn't be left in for long term or overnight, but the timings are a guideline for you. So let's keep pulsing this in. You'll notice that the fluid goes in fairly quickly on this because the DPF drops straight down the front of the engine, so it's got natural flow there, and it's going to only take a couple of minutes longer to get this fully in. Okay, give it a shake. So that's all of the step 1 in there now. So you'll notice that the engine is off. So we've done this with the engine stationary. We've pumped in the step 1, so we'll allow that to soak for sort of 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll do the next part of the process. Okay, so you've seen us pump this in previously. So step 1 is all in there. We've allowed it to soak for around 5 minutes. So all I'm going to do now is go and start the vehicle, and I'm going to use a pedal depressor to increase the engine RPM. So on this vehicle, what I'm going to do is go to around 2000 RPM. But again, experienced mechanics doing the job. If it's a later vehicle with a dual EGR valve, which means you have a pipe coming back to the intake from behind the DPF, what we do advise is keeping the engine about where we are now, 14 or 1500 RPM. We can go a little bit higher on this, and then we're going to walk outside. So that's sitting nicely at 2000 RPM. Don't worry about your RPM increasing slightly at the moment, because that's quite normal, because the pressure is dropping in the exhaust, so less restriction, so the pressure is going to creep up. So as you can see now, we have our catch tank. It is a waste product, so you should use a catch tank. We like to have this one attached to the exhaust so there's no spillage, and you can see it's a good indicator with the exhaust on the top. So we'll run this vehicle for about 5 minutes until the smoke calms down. Obviously, if it's burning off a lot more soot, you can see how much smoke we have there now. So we'll just allow it to run for a few more minutes, and then we'll move on with the next stage. So we'll be back shortly and we'll talk you through the next part. Okay, so we've ran the step 1 through the exhaust now, and the smoke has dispersed outside. So we're ready to go with the next step. So a top tip for you, while that was running through for that 5 minutes, what you can do is take the canister off and do some preparation for the next stage. So what we've done is, while the pedal depressor was on and the engine was running, we put the first half of step 2, we poured it into here. Now you'll notice there is more, this is a larger container than what the canister can take. So you put the half of this into here to start with, and then we will show you, we'll pour the next step in when we're done. It's very important that you use all of the flush fluid, because it must flush all of the step 1 out of the exhaust. So makes good use of your time if you pour the first half into here while you're running the step 1 through. So that's what we've done at the moment. So all we've done is we've poured that into the canister, and we're now ready to go. We've dropped the engine speed down to idle, and we're ready to flush this through. Again, like we said earlier, if you're not sure if it has 2 EGRs or not, then now that the engine's warm, we've simply unplugged the mass airflow meter, and that will keep the EGRs closed. So we'll do that for the purpose of giving you a little tech tip there. So airline's on, cone nozzle's connected, step 2 is in the canister ready, and we're ready to flush this exhaust out. Again, we're going to pulse this in till all of the fluid is gone. But don't forget, just to make the point again, if your DPF is badly blocked, then you need to be looking for the reason why it blocked up. So that's really important. So once this is in and we increase engine RPM, we'll have a look outside again, and we may have some foam coming out of the exhaust. If you do not get foam, do not worry, it's not important. Some depends on the layout of the exhaust. Sometimes you get foam, sometimes you don't. But the important thing is the end result when we measure our pressure again. That's almost all in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the engine RPM. I'm going to run this flush through first before putting the rest of it in. So I'll increase the engine RPM. We'll have a little look outside and let's see if we have any foam coming out of the exhaust. All right. Pedal depressor on. So let's get a nice steady engine RPM and we'll have a look outside and we'll see if we'll have any foam coming out the exhaust. So when we look in the container here, we should see some foam starting to come through shortly. If not, we're not overly worried about that. But again, our indication is there. We still have quite a lot of smoke, and if we have some foam coming out, we'll let this run just till that settles down, and then we'll put the rest of the chemical through. So that's what we're going to do now. When the rest of this is through, we'll pick back up inside and we'll talk you through the rest of the process. Okay, so we're going to put the final amount of the flush fluid through now. So we'll spin this off. So as you can hear, I've left the engine running here. There's no need to switch her off because it's still flushing what's left of that through the exhaust. So it's always good to get one step ahead of yourself. So the final amount of the step 2 flush fluid, we pour it into the canister. Let's spin this onto the toolkit. Nice and tight. And let's attach the airline. So, like I said earlier, all we're doing with this is running all of the flush through to make sure all of the step 1 is out of the exhaust. When we're done this, and the fluid's mostly gone, what we're going to do is take off the catch tank, reconnect everything, and then we're going to go for around a 20-minute drive. It's important you do that because that gets rid of all of the flush fluid out of the exhaust, and then when you come back off of road test, we're then ready to re-measure our DPF pressure again. So we'll pump the rest of this through. Now what we'll do is, once this is pumped through, we're repeating the previous process. We'll come back and show you our next step where we'll connect everything back up and then we're ready to go on road test. So we'll be back soon. Okay, so now all of the flush has dispersed through the exhaust. So before I pack the toolkit away, another little tip for you is, if you pull your pipe out now and just leave your DPF pressure pipe venting to atmosphere, that will help to get any residual bits of fluid out of the pipe before you reconnect it to your pressure sensor. So that's all I'm going to do now. The pedal depressor is still on, the engine RPM is still slightly raised, I'm now going to pack the toolkit away. What we're left to do now is we must fill this canister with water and flush it into a bucket. That's just to protect the seals on the toolkit. So what we'll do that now while the engine is still on fast idle, and that will allow any chemical to disperse from this pipe, and then we'll come back, we'll reconnect the pipe. We've also reconnected our mass airflow meter. So what we'll do now, we'll clean that out, we'll reconnect everything, we'll go for a 20-minute drive. At this moment in time, I have not cleared any faults down from the system. I'm purely going for a drive to clear the exhaust. Okay, so we'll do that, we'll get ready to go on road test, and we'll be back soon. So we're now back from road tests. So we'll put the step 1 in, we'll run the vehicle for 5 minutes or so. We put the step 2 in over 2 stages, and we'll flush the exhaust out. So then we've been for a 20-minute road test, and we now come back. So now it's time to measure our DPF pressure. So if you remember, we had the mass airflow meter unplugged earlier. We plugged that back in before road test. We come back and we now have 4 millibar of DPF pressure. So happy days, you know, we're really happy with that. So we can now go in with a scan tool, and we can now clear fault codes and reset our adaptations. So once we've done that, what we would do is go out on a final road test and just monitor engine data, and we'll see if the vehicle goes into a natural regeneration. It's not necessary to carry out a forced regeneration, and that's really not advisable unless you really know, you know, your DPF sort of, you know, your DPF diagnosis, you know. So avoid DPF regenerations. It shouldn't be necessary. You drive the car for a good long road test, then it should do one naturally. So, and that's it, another great result for JLM, and job done. For more information, check out our website, jlmlubricants.com. Don't forget to give this video a like and follow our YouTube channel at JLM Lubricants.